Oh, yay. I think we did it.
Okay.
My God,
So,
that was unbelievable.
so do you want to go out and go back in again to make sure it's good? To make sure you know how to do it?
Can
Or
I
you
just
want to just stay it like this?
keep it like this? It's 11:55.
Okay.
I don't want to spend 15 minutes trying to do it again.
That's okay. Well, you made it.
Uh-huh. Can
Yay!
you see me? Do I
Yeah,
need?
that's better.
All right. I gotta lean it against something.
So thanks for joining everybody to Peeling Back the Label. I have the beautiful Miss Janet Metz Walter, and today we're going to be talking about her book, The 2 Carat Ring. Thanks for joining us today, Janet.
Oh, thank you. Let me get you straight here.
I'm getting seasick.
I don't know why. Okay, is this a little better?
Perfect.
Okay. It says video with others so they can watch too.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if I move that, that might be a little better. Are we on live now?
Yeah, we've been on. We've been live.
Oh, good. I'm playing around here. That's wonderful. Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Uh, well, yeah, I'll just have to maybe put something behind here. Okay. That's better, right? Yay.
Perfect. We did it. We did it. Yes, yes, yes. So now you know how to do Instagram Live, Janet. You're a pro now.
Oh, yeah, except the next time I try it.
Right. It's you know what? Sometimes it's to connect. Sometimes it could be all just about the internet connection. So who knows? You know. I mean, I've had times where I've literally had to shut it all down and then say, "Okay, meet me on a Zoom." You
Yeah.
just don't. You never know. But that's all about being live. It's all okay. We're good. We're gonna have a good time.
I'm
Okay.
happy. It was a little easier when I really was live with a few other people, but you know.
Well, it's all good. We're going to talk about your beautiful book today. I can't wait to dive deep into this. And I guess we'll start off with, how did you start writing? Like, were you always a writer? Did you, you know, how
Pretty
did
much. Well, the way I started writing was the fact that my father was very athletic. He was a handball player, but my mother had no athletic abilities at all, and I inherited my mother's no athletic abilities. So my mother liked to do crossword puzzles. She was a teacher,
Mhm.
and she liked to do crossword puzzles, and she crocheted, and she played Scrabble and Mahjong. So those were the traits that I kind of inherited. So I started deciding that I liked to write in the 6th grade when I got 2 articles into this little journal that they made in my elementary school. And so when I realized I had 2 articles in there, every job I held, and I call myself the Jill of all trades because I have worked in social services. I was the assistant director of a child care center. I've produced shows for my community organization. I worked in a camp. So there were so many things that I did that I started really, I had to write newsletters to parents and all kinds of other things. And I decided I really did like writing, but I wasn't able to do it I had to work. And sometimes when you write, you don't always become James Michener right away. So the first time, the way that I started this was that at some point in time, I joined my husband in the family jewelry business. We're manufacturers of fine jewelry, and I met at a meeting, I went to a seminar that was held by Stephanie Larkin from Red Penguin Books. And we kind of became mutual friends. And at the seminar, she suggested that if you are too busy to actually sit down and write a novel, and I know it takes a long, long time, you can do an anthology. You can ask people for stories through your business and connect it to your business. And I thought that was the greatest idea ever, because I could work in my business and then I could write also. So I put it out there to everyone I knew, neighbors, friends, old friends, relatives. And I figured, let me see what I get. And I wasn't expecting to get a whole lot. And I wound up getting 40 responses.
Wow.
And the 40 responses were mostly phone interviews. People did not write the stories. They called me on the phone and they wrote to me.
You.
And they told me. So then I had to take all of the stories and put them into a book. The interesting thing was that by that time, I was already teaching Mahjong in 2 continuing ed programs. And also privately, Stephanie decided to take my Mahjong class privately. And it was somebody in my Mahjong class that said, I have a story. And the story was about, you see, it's 2 carrots. It's not what you would think of when you hear the 2-carat ring. And the story I was somewhat familiar with, because after World War II, a lot of the soldiers came home and started working, but they really didn't have a lot of money if they wanted to get engaged or whatever. So Woolworths was selling these little 2-carat rings. And apparently this lady's father bought a 2-carat ring for his wife. And that's the beginning of the story in the book. And I loved it so much that I decided that it would make a great cover and a great title. So
I love it. I think you nail on the head. It was perfect. Like, like I told you, that was the first one. I went straight to that story. I had to know, what was this 2-carat ring all about? I had to know. And it was a lovely story.
It really was. It was a very sweet story. And then her mother contributed the poem that's in the story. So I added that, and I thought that was really nice. And then I went on to categorize all the stories, because there were different categories of stories: lost jewelry and proposals and inherited jewelry. And so I just had to categorize them all. And I was very thrilled with the results. I actually had a book. My grandchildren were like beside themselves. My grandson actually helped me, read some of the stories and tell me if he liked them or not. And I also had another friend who read the stories for me. And eventually it got published. So it's really a thrill when you do get published for the first time.
So now, so when you are publishing through Red Penguins, so you're not self-publishing; they're the actual publisher.
They are the publisher, and they publish the book. They then the way they do it is they let you buy copies of your books and sell them yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when you buy them from the printers, they, I guess, take, whatever their cut is. And then the books are sent to me and I can sell them for, whatever price I want to sell them for. And goes the same way with the anthologies, because since I wrote this book, I Stephanie decided to put, she decided she was going to start a series of anthologies, which means that all different authors contribute short stories,
Hmm.
and then each anthology has stories contributed by like a dozen or so authors. So having once one of my jobs was as a travel agent, and I have to say that I feel very blessed that my kids were the kind of cooperative kids that by the age of 6, they were ready to start traveling. And through my being a travel agent and getting lucky about getting some money back from a missed, not a missed flight, a flight that was too crowded to go out, and we left the flight. I got money, and my husband was by that time very into traveling, and so my children have traveled the world,
Oh,
and
nice.
it's really nice. And so one of the anthologies was Rome. So I have
Oh, okay.
a story in Rome, and I have a story in London. And again, you can buy the books yourself. The author can buy the books themselves and sell them. This is called Reality. This one's called A Guide to Growing Up. Eventually, the book was changed to Memories of Growing Up.
That's another
And
anthology.
it's another anthology, and it's a story literally about my own experience. My favorite way of writing my personal topic is memoir. And so if it's a story that I can tell, like the one in Reality, and I just write the story. London and Rome are about our experiences in London and Rome. What I do is I take my own experiences, and I don't do word for word. Sometimes I change things around a little bit, and don't mention people's real names. But I do. This one is called Finding Family, which I had an experience about finding family. Once Ancestry came around, it just something that a lot of people do. And this one is called Feeding the Flock, and I love this because this is a recipe book, but the idea of the book was that not only did you have to give a recipe, but you had to give the family background of the recipe.
That's nice.
So,
Yeah, 'cause there's always a story behind a family recipe, right?
yeah. So, I mean, I've really enjoyed it, and for me, because I do, you know, still I don't work full time. I'm trying to do a little more writing, and but I still own the business, and when I get busy with it, if I can write just a short 10-page story, it works really well for me right now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Getting involved in the anthologies because at least you're still writing.
And there's another one coming out on New York. I'm not 100% sure yet if I'm in it, but that one was the first half of the story is totally my story, and the second half of the story it ended like when I finished elementary school, and I moved it along to the present day, but that whole thing was fantasy. So it's half, but
That's
I
nice. I
really
love
do.
that.
And I also I also go to groups and have people bring their own pieces of jewelry and tell their own stories for, it could be a book club, it could be a women's group or, whatever, just
Hmm.
whatever groups people belong to. And the other thing is that I mentor, right now it's two beginning authors. I've been mentoring them for a long time.
That's
And
wonderful.
and so, I try to spread myself out a little bit so that I'm doing different things and I'm enjoying it. But this is my pride and joy because this I never expected.
Yeah, what I love about your book is, you can just read a chapter a night
Right.
or read a chapter every couple of days. Take it with you on a trip. Again, it's not, you're just going to read a little story at a time. It's not like you committed to read the whole book,
Right.
in one sitting. So that's what I love about this book, and also it's very inspiring. All the stories are so inspiring.
It is. And there was another incident that happened along with the book, and that is that one of the people who contributed a story told me she had a friend who wanted to contribute a story. And when I started speaking to the friend, um, it turned out that her name was familiar to me because I have relatives who had the same name. It was shortened a little bit. But it turned out after we got to talking a little while, I was related to these cousins on their mother's side. She was related to these same cousins on their father's side. And I never would have known it. And she didn't really know them because they live in California. And although I was very, very close to them, I was actually the flower girl at this cousin's wedding. And I became very, very close with her children. And uh, it was just really weird because they live in California and she had really never met them. And I got them together. They started texting each other and
Amazing.
Facebooking each other. And so you never know what's going to happen when you hear a story.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And everybody loves a good jewelry story. Everybody loves it because they're all so interesting.
Yes, most of them are in one way or another.
Next, so
So,
are you going to be continuing with the anthologies, or do you think you might be writing a book yourself, or continuing with, your own anthology? What do you think is next for you?
right now, anthologies happen to suit me because I'm busy with a few things, and it's really easy, and I really just enjoy it. People keep asking me when I'm writing part two,
Yeah, that's what I
but
was going to say. We got to get going on this.
yeah. But I may decide to do that. I may decide to move in another direction and just I've had interesting life experiences throughout the year.
That's what I was
And
thinking. Your memoir stuff, like getting into the jewelry business, the highs, the lows, the ins, the outs, all the
yeah,
little stories that you learned along the way from your customers. That might be something of interest for you as well, right? Because that's what
yeah.
that's what you're good at.
And also my own personal, things that have gone on in my life. But sometimes they're good and sometimes not so good. And sometimes it just makes me, even if I don't publish it, if I write it, it just makes me feel good that I'm getting it out of my head. So,
Absolutely.
and then eventually I can turn them into, somebody else's stories that aren't aren't me, but I could make stories out of some of the things that have happened to me in my life. So it's a it's an ongoing thing.
That, that's
And
great.
it's a challenge. So I'm very happy. I'm proud of myself. You know, my kids and grandkids enjoy it, and I think that the people who contributed the stories enjoyed doing it also. It
Abs-
gave.
abs- Absolutely, 100%.
Mhm.
So what do you like what in your spare time, Janet, what do you like reading? You know, like what's on your night table today, or you know, what's in your travel bag for reading?
Well, on my night table today is the Marika story because that's the next story for our book club. I discovered Audible. I always liked reading myself because I wanted to hear the voices in my own head. But I also did discover that sometimes it's just easier to listen. And so that's what I'm reading now. But I am an addict of Outlander. And every year, as each new book came out, as soon as it came out, I read it. And I really, it's kind of a fantasy and it does have some violence. I'm not a big fan of violence, but you know, it was part of the
During that time,
the
that's
era
hmm
that it happened. So the book that I connected to most recently was the the one about oh, it just went out of my head. Uh, um, the one about the woman in the 50s who became the she was a chemist. Lessons in
lessons in
chemistry.
chemistry.
Lessons in
Yeah,
chemistry.
yeah.
And that is partially my own story.
Ah,
And because in the 60s, that's the way it was, no matter what you studied or what degree you had or what you did, um, it didn't matter if it was in the 60s or early 70s. And I had majored in home economics I have a Bachelor of Science. At the time, it was called home economics. I don't even know what it's called now, but it was nutrition and child development, and I sort of went along those lines in my jobs for a very long time. And um, when I graduated from college, Good Housekeeping was looking for someone to work in their test kitchen, and I had just gotten engaged. And so I went to the interview and I was wearing my engagement ring. And they said to me, um, well, we like you and we think you would be very good, but we see you wearing an engagement ring, which means you're going to get married and have a child and all our training and whatever. It really doesn't pay for us to hire you. So you know, when I saw Lessons in Chemistry, I said, hello.
yeah. They said
So,
that now they'd be in trouble.
right. And I really fooled them because it turned out that my son was born a month before my 7th anniversary. So they would have had me for 7 years,
Right,
but they
right,
didn't.
right. Yeah, they just assumed
Right.
all these things. Hmm.
Right. So, you know, that's the way it was in the 60s. And I really loved that book. And I really
Hmm.
love the Netflix show that
Yeah, yeah.
Netflix Apple.
Yeah, ask you, did you like the Netflix movie? Did you like the book better or the Netflix part better or?
Um, you know, it's the same thing like Outlander. They make some changes
Mhm.
from the book to the movie just for purposes of watching or because there's something about the story that they're not, you know, they decide they want to change.
Mhm.
And I learned how to kind of separate them. One was a book that I read, one was
Mhm.
a story that I
Yeah.
watched. And so that's I don't like some of these very dark um, you know, movies. It's not my thing to read things that are very dark, but I know that there are things that have violence in them. It doesn't thrill me, but sometimes it's just part of the story.
Right.
And so I'm reading this one now. I liked the women because my husband was not in Vietnam, but he served in the army during the Vietnam War, and I found that very interesting. And then I like lighter things too.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Yep.
I really like a wide variety. And even though I write mostly memoir, I do like a like variety of books.
Very nice. Now, can you tell us, Janet, how can people, purchase your book? Where can they find you? Before we end the interview, can you tell people how to get a hold of
I
this beautiful book? Because it does make a beautiful gift, whether it's the holidays or a birthday or Mother's Day. It's a book that I think anyone would love to get and to read.
Well, Stephanie just opened a new store, so to speak, called Shop Books Direct.
Okay.
And so you can go to that website. You can also get it from Amazon if you feel more comfortable doing that. If you live in Nassau or Suffolk County and you want to meet me directly and have me hand it to you, some people prefer downloading an ebook,
Mm-hmm.
and some people like the idea of getting the real book and getting the signature and whatever. So if anybody's interested in buying it directly from me, they can contact me, and I'll meet them somewhere and give them the book. So I sell it. I offer it to my mahjong classes. I offer it to my neighbors. So whichever way is easier. Also on Goodreads. So there are several different outlets, but Shop Books Direct is now.
Yeah, I'll make sure I put that in the note. So if they wanted to, they can go there or Amazon. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on today, Janet. It was,
Thank you.
so great chatting with you and getting to know you better.
Oh, thank you. And I guess I'll see you soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the invite.
Thanks, Janet. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.